Good morning, everyone. I didn't expect to be outed as a New Jersey resident, so thanks, Jeremy. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. This is the first. I like going first because I can talk about this. You all have amazing badges that you've decorated and put your names on, and they're right now sitting on your breakfast-filled tum-tums, not doing anybody any good right now. So, as a way to meet people, if you take your badge and you hold it up and you spin it around and hang it off of the back of your neck, then the people behind you can know your names and be able to talk to you and know who you are later. Look at that. So when you're seated, just spin your badge around, and that way people can know who you are without doing that weird, like looking at your navel, like, what is your name? So we've got that. Uh-oh. I think it's a safe assumption to say we've all seen videos like this on the internet. Maybe some of you have actually seen this video, you know how this is going to end. Even if you have seen this video and you do know how it's going to end, there's still drama here, right? You feel bad for this girl. You're like, oh, man. Because there's a reasonable chance that she just doesn't recover from this. You know, the race is effectively over for her. It's like, well, she's done, count her out. At some level, we as humans sometimes feel like if you stumble once, well, that's really the end of it. My name is Dan Mall. Up until 2 days ago, I ran a design system consultancy called Super Friendly, and we worked on and consulted with some of the most recognizable brands in the world, like United Airlines and Pfizer and companies like that on their design systems. And I want to share some of the observations and the patterns that I've seen over the last decade so that you can learn from them. I want to highlight a couple of inquiries that we've gotten over the past couple of years that are, I think, representative of some of the other inquiries that we've gotten during that time period. And we're going to, as people like us do, we're going to spot some patterns in all that. So back in 2014, this is the kind of inquiry we got. Please forgive, there's a lot of text on the screen. I'm going to read it out. I'll read it aloud. So in 2014, we would get emails like this. The subject is International Website Framework. And it says things like, I am looking for the next step in where we could be. I'm looking for someone to rewrite the visual style in a way that makes it extremely modular, like atomic design. I'm not interested in abandoning our original design. I want users to see this as an evolution. And this would be for the design of HTML and CSS, plus a style guide, pattern library only, not implementation on our CMS, etc. I don't want to get overly detailed in this email, but is this a project that you'd be interested in discussing further? Now, years later, we look at this and can hear this and go, that's a design system project. But in 2014, almost none of our prospective clients had that vocabulary yet. We as an industry were just starting to come out with that. Only a few of us were talking about it in that way. So it's kind of hand-wavy. It's like with the design of HTML and CSS, some style guide stuff, some pattern libraries, kind of converging on this. Fast forward a couple of years later, 4 years later, 2018, this is a direct message that I got up from a prospective client on Twitter. They said, hey, Dan, we're forming a design system team at blank, and I know that your company works in this space. Is there a way we can work together? Much more direct. Right? 4 years later, a very specific message that acknowledges design system work. A lot happened in design systems over those 4 years, from 2014 to 2018, and a lot of you in this room were responsible for some of that stuff. Writing articles, sharing work, tweeting about it, posting on your portfolios, all of that kind of stuff. All right, 3 years later, an email from 2021. The subject here is design system project. We currently have a design system for the web experience of brand. It's fragmented, and we have a number of component libraries and silos throughout the org. We're revitalizing and funding a new core systems team tasked with defining a new component and pattern library. We'd like a partner to help our core systems squad execute designing and developing the components and patterns necessary for an internal release at the end of H1 2022. We'd love adoption of the entirely new design system by Q4 2022. You'd be working directly with myself and our system squad, 2 designers, 2 UI engineers, 1 PM, 1 technical writer. So we'd like to be in execution mode if possible and bang out a list of defined components and patterns that amplify the brand and expressiveness of our company. Holy design systems bingo in this email. Right? All the buzzwords are there, all the hashtags are there. But again, look at how the language has evolved over 7 years. There's talk about component libraries, there's talk about silos, fragmentation, UI designers, UI engineers, system squads, all of the things, all of the ecosystem is there. A lot more detail around teams, around timeline, around expectations. And just this year, 2022, earlier this year, design system help. Curious to know if your team helps establish design systems become better. We're in need of some help, specifically around governance. Your company popped up in the discussion because you all worked with Jenny, who works with us now. Is this something that your team can help with? So, If I was to sum up the differences between the kind of inquiries and kind of conversations happening around design systems in 2014 and 2022, it would look something like this. In 2014, the teams that would come to us wanted help making a system. Help us make a design system. We don't have one. We want our first one. We think it's a good idea. We heard about this. We want one. In 2022, teams want help getting people to use that system. So almost all of Super Friendly's clients in the last year have come to us saying, we have a system, we've had it for a while, it just doesn't have the traction that we thought it would have. Can you help us with governance? Can you help us figure out how to get more people to contribute? Things like that. That's 8 long years of hoping for something that isn't happening yet. Now, the teams that reach out to us usually find themselves in one of 2 situations. The first one is where there has been a significant effort already put forth to create infrastructure, components, Figma libraries, architecture, and still no one really seems interested or kind of prefer to do their own thing. No, thanks, we're not going to use that. We have our own library, we'll use that. I call this the design system ghost town. It's a sad, desolate place to find yourselves. The second situation is where teams get even more desolate and desperate. They've given up hope. They say things like, we move too fast for a design system here, or we're too large of an organization for a design system to be useful for us. At these kinds of companies, you can often find stories of several times over the last couple of years that they tried to make a design system and it just didn't take. You probably guessed it. I call this one the design system graveyard. Ooh, spooky. But here's the point of all this. Whether you've had a design system for many years that hasn't gotten adopted, or you're starting from scratch today, as soon as you get back to work from this conference, you're like, we're going to do this design system thing, you can be successful. It all starts with the decision that you make about your next component, which is the title of my talk today. No matter where you are in your design system journey, if you've had one for years and it's still not taking and you need to improve it, or you start one from scratch, you can make a good, successful design system with the decisions you make about the next component that you tackle. And I'm going to share some details about how you might do that. I tweeted this back in April. I said, I am so thrilled for a design system team that I've been working with. The team formed on February 7th. Yesterday, only 61 days later, they shipped design system version 1.0.0, and a feature team implemented a component, which was checklist item, into their code base, saying it saved them a week of dev time. 61 days. This is a company who is on their 4th try at a design system. They've tried 3 times over the last 4 years. It's never too late. You can be successful here. So maybe you're thinking, something that a lot of my clients will come out and ask to say, all right, Dan, so you helped lots of companies with their design systems. What is your process? How would we get to successful design system? And honestly, I think what they're looking for is some fancy diagram with like circles and arrows that show you, like that show up when you do a Google search for like design process. Like they want like, first we celebrate, then we congregate, then we fornicate, then we triangulate, then we, we don't have that. I don't have that process. Instead, I would say something like this. Well, there's like 50 things that we would do over the course of 3 to 4 months. And they go, okay, cool, like what kinds of things? And I'd be like, it's a lot. And they're like, well, what is it? I'd be like, well, there's just like a bunch of stuff that we would do to make a good design. And I try to describe it in a way that is more than I should describe on a sales call, and they would get really confused and like, what are you talking about? So instead, my friend Crystal Vitelli and I, we decided we're gonna write this down all in detail. Like, what is our process from end to end? So we wrote it down in a book. We made a workbook called Design System in 90 Days. It turned out to be this workbook. I'm gonna spend my time on the stage today telling you basically the most important things about the workbook, so you don't have to buy the workbook. I wanna help you get your design system adopted as quickly as possible. So I'll share what I think are the most important lessons from this workbook. If you like what you hear and you want more of the steps, at the end of this talk, I'll give you a discount code. You can get the workbook. Make sure you're paying attention for that. So what I said was that the next component that you tackle has a major impact, which begs the question, like, where do you start, right? There's 52 things. Where do you start? To answer that, I want to share 2 quotes with you that I love. I use as kind of frameworks for sharing with design system teams as a way to start. The first one is from the late Stephen Covey. He's an author and an educator whose most popular book was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Pretty good book. One of the principles in that book that I love is begin with the end in mind. I love this quote. It's like so simple, but it's so rich. Begin each task, each day, each project, each component with a clear vision of your desired direction and of your destination. So how do you know where the end is? What's the end for this component or our design system or our project or our sprint cycle or our month? Where do you find that? Well, activity number 1 in the workbook is this: assemble the North Star. right? And the little abstract here is the mission, network, strategy, and vision define the strategic direction for a business. They provide the what, who, how, why necessary to powerfully align action in complex organizations. Your company's mission and vision statements exist, ideally, in order to keep everyone aligned. That's why they're there. So ideally, your design system can actually take some of the heavy lifting about alignment when it comes to user interfaces so that it makes sense to tie the two together. And that's a step that I see not a lot of design system teams take. They're like, well, we have our own design principles. I'm like, cool, how does that help your company? And they're like, we make user interfaces. But for what? How? How do you do that? So let's look at the mission statement, for example, that Uber has, right? This is Uber's website. Anybody here work for Uber? No? Some free consulting coming? No? Okay, all right. Well, Uber's mission statement is, we reimagine the way the world works for the better. Now, the question that every team should be asking, every team that works at Uber should be asking, in order to keep them on track and aligned, is how can our feature or our product reimagine the way that the world moves for the better? How can our app do that? How can our customer service team do that? How can our design system help to reimagine the way that the world moves for the better? So what do we do with that? Well, I mentioned there was 2 quotes that I love. I shared one. So here's the second one that maybe can help fill in the gaps. It's from Taoist master Lao Tzu. And it says, a journey of 1,000 miles, begins with a single step. Design system teams are responsible for making vision happen, not making vision, right? You look elsewhere in the organization for vision. Your job is to make it actionable. So you want your design system to go to distance, right? You want it to go 1,000 miles. You want it to last for a couple years. Components are the lifeblood of design systems. So what is your first component going to be? Now, whatever you just thought in your head, I said, what is your first component going to be? You all probably thought something in your head. I want you to remember that answer for a minute. I'm not going to ask you to shout it out or volunteer it or anything like that. But I believe that the answer that is in some of your heads, most of your heads maybe, is the biggest misstep that leads to design system ghost towns and graveyards. I think this is the line of thinking that sets design systems off on an unproductive journey, kind of on a tangent, and people fool themselves into thinking that they're doing worthy work. What do most design system teams think is their first step in the journey of 1,000 miles, the first no-brainer component that you should tackle? What? I didn't ask anybody to raise their hands, but take stock of whether button was the first thing in your head. Seems obvious, right? It's simple. All interfaces have buttons. Every product team needs a button somewhere in their features. That's true. In my experience, innocent, simple button has been the slippery slope downfall of most design system teams. Because once you have button done, you think, well, we have buttons, so we should probably have a bunch of general typography styles at least, and a base color palette defined, and some other basics like form elements and headers and footers. Let's explore why button is such a poor starting point. First, let me say, from a technical standpoint, a button component is deceptively complex. Those of you that have worked on button, you're like, yep, see some head nods, that's right. So I'm not going to get into that right now. We're not going to talk about the technical complexity of button. Find me at the after party if you want to arm wrestle about that. We can do that. So let's go back to Uber, right? Can we make a good argument for how the button component helps Uber reimagine the way that the world moves for the better? I mean, you might say, well, if we added a little animation and showed some movement, the key there is when your voice goes high like that, you know you're probably in hot water. What about a map component? I can make a pretty strong argument for how a map component literally helps Uber reimagine the way that the world moves for the better. So I would argue that it would be better to start with the map component before the button component because it's directly impacting the mission of the company. Another reason that I'm convinced that button is a terrible early component is that it flies in the face of everything I've learned from a very prolific and important source of inspiration in my life, movies. How many people here have ever been to prison? I'm just kidding. Don't raise your hand. What do movies teach us is the best and quickest way to get respect when you're the new inmate on the block? You go fight the biggest guy around.
Check out the new meat. I'm gonna slather you up in Ganavi and jelly. Go to town.
Let's make something clear. This one here's our booty. You want to get to him, you go through us. Or, more accurately, we go through you.
I'm with them.
Isn't that the kind of swag you want your design system team to have? All your product designers are like, I'm with them. I don't know what you're saying. If you go to product teams offering little old button component, they will laugh you out of the room. What team needs another team to provide button to them? What team is sitting around like, oh, if only there was a group of folks that could provide button component to us. We're so helpless without them. But if you decided to tackle one of the most complex, nastiest, and most intimidating components in the company, that might earn you some respect. So, how do you identify what components those are? Well, you ask around. There are 3 sets of activities that I want to share that help you get these answers quickly. So here's the first one. This is activity number 4 in the workbook. Collect feature teams' roadmaps. And again, I apologize for the text on screen, a lot of text on screen. I'll read it out. Get your hands on whatever is used at your organization to plan quarterly initiatives and to facilitate conversations about prioritization. What are the feature teams at your organization planning to do in the next 3 months? How are they broadcasting those plans? That is what you're after. So here's what you do. How you can track this can be very simple. This is a screenshot of a Fig Jam. It doesn't have to be in Figma. It could be in any tool. It could be in a Google Doc. It could be in a PowerPoint document. How you track this can be very simple. Here's a quick example, right? This is a Fig Jam that shows you at a glance what's coming up. Links are good, so this is an example. That's like the payments team. Here's a roadmap to their. Here's a link to their roadmap in Google Docs. The bookings team. Here's a link to their roadmap in Confluence. Here's a screenshot of the social team's Jira board. Right. Here's a couple of bullet points or notes about the flights team. Right. So you can just capture these very simply, but just capturing them in one place allows you a way to kind of get a bird's eye view of like this is what's coming up for our org over the next quarter. Links are good. Screenshots are even better. Combination is best. All right, next up, interview potential design system customers, right? That's the next step. Make a list of 15 to 20 people who you think would benefit from using the design system. Interview each person for 30 to 45 minutes and listen for stories of how product gets made. So that last part, listen for stories of how product gets made, we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. The reason that this is an important step, though, is that this is how you avoid the slippery slope of the button component. Including the button component is an answer to a question that nobody's asking. Right? Nobody's like, who can provide button? And the design system team's like, we can. No one asks that. So instead, the question is, what components should we have in a comprehensive design system? Right? The honest truth of it is that people who care about the answer to that question are people like me who speak at conferences like this, and people like you who attend them. A better question than this is this one: who can we help? One of my favorite answers to this question comes from author Rory Vaden. Here he is in an interview with motivational speaker Ed Milet, and he's talking about the importance of our own experiences. Let's watch this short clip.
All of us are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were.
Oh, wow.
You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And so when you look at the problem you solve, right, it's going, what challenge have I conquered? What obstacle have I overcome? What setback have I survived?
You see this a lot, right? Designers want to make a design system to help engineers build at higher quality. What that really means is designers are tired of redlining and doing multiple passes of design QA for every build. Right? It's a well-intentioned, it's a well-meaning act, but it's also a pretty selfish motivation. Designers can't help engineers if they've never seen a line of React code. Engineers can't help product managers if they think release cycles are garbage. So instead, you are, again, as Rory said in the video, you are most powerfully positioned to help the person that you once were. If you're a designer and the Figma Tokens plugin help you design more consistently and more efficiently, show other designers how to discover that superpower also. You are best positioned to do that. If you're an engineer and the design system's approach to composability helps you to code faster, teach the junior engineers on your team how to do that. That's a better use of your time and your effort on the design system team. This is why interviews are so important. In interviews, you can discover people who are on the same path that you were on, just a couple of steps behind you. Right? You went ahead of them, so that their journey can be a lot easier. That's the point of a design system team, kind of blazing that trail. All right, next activity, last one here, is to schedule product feature walkthroughs. Track down the emails of promising teams, product owners, and leads, and start scheduling some times to walk through their products with them. Again, this is easily tracked in a Fig Jam or something similar. All right, what you can do is you can create a surface area for each team that you're going to talk to. So for example, on the screen, we have 4 surface areas. Let's say we're going to talk to the payments team, the social team, the booking team, and the flights team. Right? So what you do is you talk to the payments team, you walk through their products with their product manager or lead designer or something like that. And what I tend to do is just, I do screen shares, maybe over Zoom or in person, and I just list the components that I see on the screen. Right? So they're walking through their product, and I'm like, okay, I see an accordion, I see some autocomplete stuff, there's some cards there, there's some sliders. I don't know if this is what they call those components, but what they are according to me. We'll reconcile all of them later. Now, there's some tabs, they've got a toggle here. I just record all of those. Then you talk to the social team, and you do the same thing. Here are some components I see on the on the products and the features that the social team is building. Do the same thing with the booking team. You do the same thing with the flights team. Now, here's the magic. Here's where the design system team comes in, and especially people who are systems-minded are really good at doing this anyway, so it becomes really easy. You look across all of these, and you go, what are the components that everybody's using? Here are the ones, highlighted in green. These components are the one that everyone's using. So the payments team is using a select component or a slider component. That's cool, they need that stuff, but perhaps the design system team doesn't need to provide that to them because nobody else is really using that. And all of the overlap here, right, this is patterns emerging, basically speaking to you, jumping out at you, trying to get you to identify them. The patterns that emerge, you can start to rank them by usage. So you can say, all right, of the 4 teams that we talked to, all 4 of them need autocomplete, all 4 of them need button group, all 4 of them need card, only 3 of them need tables, all 3 of them need tabs. What does this tell you? Who is the toughest, meanest component that you should take down? Autocomplete, that son of a bitch. Why? Because it's the toughest and meanest one. I think one of the primary responsibilities of a design system team is to take on the most difficult, complex work so that it becomes easier for everyone else. You go, we got that. We'll take autocomplete. That's cool. You all can focus on something else. We'll take the hard stuff. Define systems and process that don't need you to function, essentially. All right, so you decide to tackle autocomplete. You talk to every team that's gonna need it soon. You understand intrinsically some teams need to support an icon with autocomplete, but some teams don't need that. You get what props are required, what props are optional. Before your design system team goes off to build the components from scratch, which is generally what design system teams do, we've identified autocomplete. Let's go. Let's make the best autocomplete ever. Don't do that. Instead, look to see if another team has already built it. Design system teams should rarely start from scratch. Start by amplifying the good that already exists at your company. Someone has tackled autocomplete, even if they've started it and haven't finished it. I bet multiple teams have tried it. Some have even finished. They might be different from each other. Your job is to reconcile those. The difference will be that everyone built their version of autocomplete to serve their feature-specific needs. They didn't build it to be reusable by other teams. If they contributed their version, right, a lot of the qualms that we have is like, nobody contributes to our design system. You don't want them to. It would be awful because they built it for their product. They built it for their feature. It would be a problem if they contributed that version. For most people, it's actually better for them to spend time on their core role instead of contributing to a design system. You actually don't want them to contribute because it actually creates more work for everyone involved, the design system team and the implementing teams. So what's faster and better for you, the design system team, whose job is to see more broadly at an organization, is to figure out how to merge all of the different requirements and options into one harmonious stage. All right, now once you have that, as soon as you have a draft of that, the next step is to go to usability test that with teams immediately. Here's the first draft. We have a good release candidate, we think. Let's see if it actually works. Let's find product market fit. If a design system is a product, what would a startup do? They would find product market fit immediately. Anybody know these white guys? Yeah, these are Patrick and John Collison. They are the founders of Stripe. I'm sorry. They're the founders of Stripe. There is a famous urban legend in tech about them. And it says when they first started Stripe, they would demo it for people in person. And for anybody that seemed interested, for anybody that was like, yeah, I mean, I think I would use that, they would do what came to be known as the Collison installation. They would ask, hey, can I install it on your laptop right now? And that's how they got such great adoption early on. Is somebody would be like, yeah, this Stripe thing looks kind of cool. They're like, cool, let me see your laptop. And they would install it right there. They would get it set up. For whatever reason, our industry has this mythology about adoption. Like, if we make the perfect design system, adoption will happen magically and automatically. People will find the system. It will be so compelling to them, they will just be drawn to it. They can't help but install the components we build. We can just sit back in our design system headquarters and watch the adoption graph hockey stick up and to the right. No, getting adoption is active. We have to sell, we have to market, we have to evangelize, and sometimes beg, yes, beg, teams to use our components. I've done it before. I'm going to do it again, I'm sure. As soon as they say they're willing, there's no time like the present. Let's get it set up right now on your local build. The team that I mentioned in the beginning that did this in 61 days, that's exactly how we did it. Lots of demos, followed by immediate installation with dedicated and quick iteration and bug fixes. Okay, so you're actively working with teams now. You're usability testing all components with them. You're getting them implemented and adopted. That's going really well. Now what? Now you document. Blech. I hate this. And not the idea of documenting, but the word. I hate the word document. The connotation, again, is such a slippery slope. Like, you can't expect an organization to entirely change ways of working because you just wrote it in your documentation. But isn't that how we always write it? Right? When we document, we usually write down what our ideals are. This is how it should work in a perfect world. You should use these colors. You should not use these typefaces. You should use these text sizes. This is not helpful. There's a scene in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince where Harry and his friend Ron arrive late to their first class in their first year of advanced potion making. And Harry tells Professor Slughorn, he says, like, well, we don't have textbooks yet. So Professor Slughorn says, like, all right, we'll go to the cabinet and go get 2 textbooks. In the cabinet, there are 2 textbooks left. There's a brand new one, and then there's an old beat-up one. So Ron and Harry fight over it, and Harry gets stuck with the old one, which he's like, oh, this sucks. The first assignment that's given to the class then is Professor Slughorn says, like, I want you to brew an acceptable draft of this potion called Living Death. And whoever can do this, I'm going to give a reward to, this vial of liquid luck. And he also says that the recipe of this liquid luck can be found, or for Living Death, can be found on page 10 of their textbooks. So he also warns only one student has ever brewed an acceptable draft of Living Death. One student. So Harry opens his textbook, and he discovers that his textbook says, property of the Half-Blood Prince. And it's full of notes. It's like written in the margin of how to do this successfully and how to brew this potion. Let's watch what happens next. Look how smug he looks. The reason that Harry succeeded was because he had the cheat codes. Right? He had the notes that said, don't cut, crush. Crush with blade, it releases the juice better. Reference sites aren't instruction manuals. We try to write them that way, don't we? It's weird. We try to write them that, like, this is what is supposed to happen. They're not instruction manuals, they're historical record. Try to follow the textbook when you can, and make notes in the margin for where things don't work or just aren't right. That's the design system. It's not the textbook. It's the notes in the margin. The design system are the notes in the margin. That's the kind of contribution that we should expect and want from people, from teams. Not fully packaged components ready to be deployed, but the stories, the solutions. Instead of documenting or thinking about it that way, I often recommend to teams, let's think about it like chronicling. We're going to chronicle our design system. We're going to chronicle the journey, the path, how this works. Why it doesn't work, where it doesn't work. Documentation can be written before you ever design, build anything. In that way, it has more of a tendency to be a dry instruction manual. Chronicling can only happen after the fact. You can't chronicle beforehand. So use your design system and then chronicle how it works. I was lucky to be able to work with a team called Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty a few years ago. They report the news in countries and regions where the free press is banned or outlawed. They're doing really important and incredible work. This is the homepage built with the new design system that we made together. This was in 2014 or 2015. If we scroll down to the middle of the page, we see this component that takes up the whole row, this gray background here. Right? It's got arrows on the side. In our world, this component goes by different names. So let's take a little poll here. I'll ask you to raise your hands. How many people would call this a carousel? Okay, a few people. How many people would call it a slider? All right, a few others, right? How many people would call it a Fred? All right, one hand in the back. Thank you for being in my workshop yesterday. I appreciate that. They call this component a Fred. If you view source, I view source last week. If you view source on this page and we look at the markup, div class equals Fred content. It's called Fred. I worked on this with them in 2014. 7 years later, it's still called Fred. That is design system longevity. Ask anyone at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, there's no question about what this thing is called. This is when I learned one of my biggest lessons in design systems that I carry with me to this day and share with teams as much as I can. It doesn't matter what you agree on, it just matters that you agree. Is Fred the right name for that component? No, it's terrible. It's an absolutely wrong name. Who cares? The team has clarity. Didn't do that on purpose, sorry. It allows them to move forward. They're not stuck on that. Everybody makes such a big deal about naming. Naming's so hard. It's not. Getting people to agree is hard. Don't spend a lot of time finding a name for a component. Pick a name quickly. Spend all the time convincing people to use it. You all know who this is? Shout it out if you know who this is. This is Princess Leia from Star Wars. Yeah, how about this? Anybody know who this guy is? This is Luke Skywalker. Yep. How about this friend here? This is Darth Vader. Ooh, curveball. Who's this? Anyone know? Who is it? Fred? And it's not Fred. Good guess. This is Dash Rendar. Anybody heard of Dash Rendar? So he's like a Han Solo light. He's like a smuggler without care. He's a pilot of his own freighter. He's known for his ability to get out of sticky situations, but people don't know about him. And the reason is that he is in a couple of the books, and I think some of the video games about Star Wars, but he's not in any of the major movies. And in Star Wars universe, there's this idea called canon. And canon is the immovable objects of the Star Wars history, characters, and events to which all other tales must align. There are some things that are on canon, like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia. There are things that are off canon, like Dash Rendar. That doesn't mean that he's not part of the universe. It just means some things are canonized and some things are not. A design system is an organization's canon. Some things are official, some things are not. The whole thing is a collection of stories. It'd be great if most of these stories were official. It'd be even better if we have some stories that are unofficial. Sometimes we call those snowflakes. Sometimes we call those one-offs. Sometimes they eventually become canon, like in the Star Wars universe. Some characters become canon and leave canon. So I shared a small slice of the combination of plays and activities in the workbook that you can run to put your design system team on track. What's cool is you can do this at any time. If your design system is 8 years old, you can start here. If your design system starts tomorrow, you can start here. If you're discouraged about where your design system is right now, it is never too late to turn it around. Just run these plays. Run through them. You can start it at any point. Remember Abigail? As we wrap up, let's finish her story. Whoa. Look at that. All right, Abigail. How do you think Abigail felt after that? Let's ask her.
I kind of expected that stutter after I went over with the wrong foot, but I literally didn't expect to lay out and Superman fall. So I think I was kind of just startled, but it was kind of more like a, you got to get back up and finish this, more than like a, oh my God, what just happened? You know what I mean?
That's probably the best note that we could end on. Abigail from New Jersey. I mentioned that I would add a coupon code for anyone that's interested in checking out more of the activities. Here it is. In creating a sustainable design practice, you can use Clarity 2022 for 15% off. With that, I would love to say thank you to Gina and the amazing Clarity team. One last note of housekeeping. I brought my camera. If anybody wants a new Twitter bio photo, find me. I'll take a nice photo of you. I'll send it to you afterwards. Thought that would be a nice gift to give to you all. Thank you for being great listeners. Enjoy the rest of these amazing 2 days of Clarity.
Have a seat, Dan. All right, that was the perfect opener. You know, I was saying about Clarity kind of being a snapshot, a state of the union, where are we at with design systems. It was great to get that progression you had at the start of however many years now you've been doing design systems. Yep. So, I mean, on the one hand, it sounds like you don't need to sell design systems to clients anymore. Like, they come to you saying, we want design systems. But do you have to sell them on, like, oh, what you need is a North Star? Like, selling them on the prioritization process. Like, they come, give us some components, and you go back going, yeah, but what's your North Star?
Constantly. There's an extra layer of complexity in the fact that I'm a third party generally. Yeah. So I'm somebody from the outside who comes in and say, like, you need this, and also I want you to think about it in a different way. So there's always education, there's always selling to be done. Even if an organization's like, we get that we need a design system, they also don't know that it's stories. It's not just a component library. It's how we do things, how we get things done, how it ties to our mission. A lot of times, those stories aren't being told.
The mission thing, though, I mean, let's be honest, they're usually bullshit. I mean, Uber's not helping the world move, you know. Wouldn't it be more honest if you're going to get a mission statement like, we exist to make money for our Saudi investors or something, and then you can look at the components that will accomplish that. Like, aren't they always a bit, I don't know, wishy-washy?
It would be honest if that were the case, yes. But I think, if you want to be, you wrote a great blog post that I like when you wrote about Rogue One, the movie Rogue One, which is the character of Galen Erso, which is you could be the person that fights the system from the outside, or you could be the person that fights the system from the inside, right? You could be the person that say, all right, well, I'm going to call BS on our mission, and I'm going to use our design system as a way to do that. That may or may not be a mission that you want to take on, but it's possible.
Okay, well, think about that one. You were talking about prioritization a lot. Like, I mean, that's a key takeaway I got from what you were saying, is that it really matters, your first component. But when people come to you, are they looking for priorities, or are they looking for completeness? We want a complete design system.
There's probably something in the human psyche that wants completeness, that we almost never achieve, but the pursuit is worthy, I think. So I think that folks are looking for that, but I think they don't know how to get it. And I think that's one thing that especially designers are well-trained and well-poised to do, is look at a wide set of things. I always use colors as an example. Like, there are 16 million colors available to us, and we have to create a color palette of 5 out of those 16. How do we do that? Well, we're trained to do that as designers. Sometimes we learn it in design school. We learn how to pick out of a broad set of things. So I think in a lot of ways, I like design system work because it's an opportunity to teach the rest of the organization how to make decisions about things and then how to move things forward. So again, as you'll probably spotting the theme, I like using the design system as a catalyst to move an organization forward, as opposed to it being a tool that is dragged on from the rest of the organization.
So kind of a Trojan horse for design thinking?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But do you get pushback on that, where it's like, that's not what we hired you for?
Yeah, all the time. And in fact, one of the last clients that I worked with, it wasn't a debate. It wasn't like, well, let me prove to you why this is the right way, and then you disprove that with your facts. It was like, we just came to a point where the main stakeholder that I was working with he was like, hey, Dan, why should we do it this way? I'm like, because it's worked for the last 15 organizations that I worked with. And he goes, but why should we do it here? And I go, because I think it will work here. And he goes, well, I don't think that it will. And we essentially virtually shook hands and agreed to disagree.
Okay.
Sometimes that's how it ends.
So you've worked with a lot of companies, all sizes and stuff. I'm curious, when you go in, do you sometimes try to identify the person in the room who gets what you're talking about and basically, don't listen to me, don't listen to that guy?
So activity 2 in the workbook is to create an influence map, right? Is to go like, who are our allies? Who are the people that could be our allies if we activate them well? Who are our detractors? Who are our nemesis? Because you got to be able to look out for that. Like, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, if you see this as a good thing, I think design systems are political. I think they can't help but be. And so you have to understand the landscape to know how you're going to be able to succeed with such an ingrained internal tool. Because it's a design system done well should touch all the different parts of an organization. In order to do that, you have to interact with the people, and sometimes there are people with their arms crossed that need you to defeat them as the final boss to be able to get it implemented.
Yeah, when you were talking about the myth of the perfect designs, if we build it beautifully, people won't be able to resist. They'll have to use it. It sounds to me like that kind of chimes with the myth a lot of designers kind of get told in their early days, which is like, the work will speak for itself. And it sounds to me what you're saying is, it doesn't speak for itself.
It doesn't.
Gotta be championed.
I don't believe that it speaks for itself. I mean, the advantage that I have as a consultant, those of you out there who are consultants or working with in-house teams as opposed to being on in-house teams, you probably see this a bunch where I can think of multiple times where I have one client coming to me and saying, we want to build a design system just like company X.
Yeah.
At the same time, I have an inquiry from company X saying, like, we hate our design system, we need to improve it right now, right? So there's this interesting dichotomy where in design system work, a lot of us look to precedent. We go like, I want one like Polaris, or I want one like Material, and if you talk to anybody from those teams who are sitting in the audience today, they're like, we got a lot of work to do, right? We have good stuff, but we also have a lot of work to do. And I think that there's a bit of a danger in sort of like looking too blindly at those heroes of design systems, going like, we want a design system like that. No, you don't. You're not Shopify. Why would you try to build Shopify's design system? Why would you try to build Google's design system? Why would you try to build Apple's design system if you're not Apple? Build your company's design system. That's why I think if Uber didn't have buttons, fine. If Uber didn't have maps, that's a problem. If Shopify doesn't have maps, So I think like there is a sweet spot of a design system that serves an organization very well, just does the major things, the top 30%, 25%, and done at scale, you're still saving people hundreds or thousands of hours and millions of dollars, and that is a really good thing. It doesn't have to solve everything, and I think a lot of us get intimidated by going, the design system has to solve every problem that we have here, and it's like, well, good luck. That is a 100-year effort.
And do you think also, I mean, completeness can be undesirable if it leads to that situation where I want to build something, but it's not in the design system, so I'm not allowed to build it. And it leads to that resentment, that cliche about design systems constraining creativity.
Right.
Is that down to completeness?
Well, there's a hack in completeness, right? Where let's say you were trying to cook a meal for everyone in here. Well, it would be hard to cook a complete meal for 100 people. It's much easier to cook a complete meal for 2 people. So if you can reduce your scope, you can actually make something complete if your scope is manageable. And I think a lot of people, when I talk to a lot of design system teams right now that are mature, that have had design systems for many years, what they're doing is removing components from their design system. And I go, why would you do that? You have 120 components. They go, well, we can't support them all. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing? Well, we're reducing them down to 60. Why 60? Because we can support those better than we can support 120. It's such a simple reason, but it's like, well, I mean, that makes sense.
And have you ever had the extreme case of someone comes to you, says they want a design system, you start working with them, have you ever come to the conclusion, actually, no, they shouldn't have a design system? Or do you think a design system benefits any organization?
I try not to be so judgy as to say, like, they should or should not have something. What I try to look for is alignment. When I have companies come to me that say, like, we want to build like a massive design system, have thousands of components eventually, I'm like, I'm not the guy to help you do that. There probably is someone who can help you do that. It's not me, because I don't believe that about design systems. And I think a lot of times, work sometimes just comes down to what you believe. And I think that's about the alignment of, do you believe that a 50-component design system will serve you well? Do you believe that a 5,000-component design system can serve you well? Those are 2 different projects, and I don't have the skills to work on one, and I do have the skills to work on another. So I think a lot of that is about alignment.
And your perspective as kind of the outsider coming into an organization, do you also recognize that when you see the design team, design system team, who are sometimes treated almost like the outsiders telling us what to do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my job, and for those of you who consult, a lot of your job you realize is like talking to the people who work there, who are close to the metal, recognizing the smart things that they're saying, and recognizing that they're paying you to say the same things that they've been saying, right, on their behalf. I think that's part of the job of being an outside consultant. And also, that's part of the value of, like, if it doesn't work, you can just throw me under the bus, right? Oh, that stupid third-party consultant, what a dumb idea, right? Right? And then nobody internally has to kind of suffer that damage.
Give it up for Dan Moll.
Thank you.